Zhou Ying was gloomy these past 2 days. As a bronze rank assassin from Martia, his assassination targets were mostly martial artists of the 7th level Essence G realm and above. Yet this time around, the mission he received was actually to assassinate a 1st level Essence G realm rookie. To have obtained the title of a bronze rank assassin showed that his abilities had already received preliminary recognition from the organization. Zhou Ying's strength was at the 7th level Essence G realm, meaning the missions he received were mostly corresponding to his level, sometimes even against martial artists who were stronger than him. Asking him to assassinate a 1st level Essence G realm rookie was simply a form of humiliation to him. Zhou Ying was an ambitious assassin. His goal was to become a gold rank assassin. Hence, the training he received back in Martia was rather severe. Concealment, disguising appearances, and one-hit certain kill. He studied all of these very diligently, which was why his strength grew very quickly as well. In order to stimulate his potential, Zhou Ying frequently accepted quite challenging missions. There was even an occasion where he accepted a mission to assassinate a 9th level Essence G realm target which he barely managed to complete by the skin of his teeth. Ever since then, he received more attention from the organization, and the resources allocated to him also increased by a lot. This time around, the assassination target was said to be a reckless silk pants who did not have any abilities. A 15-year-old but only at the 1st level Essence G realm, he was definitely akin to rotten mud which cannot hold up the wall. Supposedly, the employer spent a large sum of money to request for a bronze rank killer to move out. Facing a target like that, Zhou Ying only needed to use a single finger to crush him. However, Zhou Ying was an extremely professional killer. Although he completely dismissed the employer's repeated cautioning, he still made adequate preparations. Many of those in the same profession used their blood to teach Zhou Ying one particular truth: a lion would go all out even when hunting a rabbit. In the past, many rookies, even bronze rank assassins from Martia, tried to kill their targets out in the open just because the targets were too weak, but ended up losing their own lives. Additionally, it was expected that the target's father had planned for 2 experts to escort him, which would make things very troublesome for Zhou Ying. However, Zhou Ying was extremely confident in his assassination techniques. As long as he made use of the favorable climate and geographical advantage, he would definitely be able to assassinate the target successfully even while under the protection of the 2 experts. But who would have thought that the retarded silk pants actually chose not to bring along those 2 followers? Instead, he left the city with only another punk and a young lady with him. He. Since you are courting death, then I won't hold back. Zhou Ying, who was looking from far away, was so excited that his heart was about to jump out. After leaving the city, Zhou Ying had been following the 3 of them from far behind, without any intention of making any move. He had already investigated the route leading from the capital to the Danwu Academy and already had a place in mind where he will make his strike. These 3 people did not seem to be anxious. They took their time while enjoying the scenery. Ha, you guys just have fun a little while longer. After all, this is the last bit of fun you guys will enjoy in your lives. Zhou Ying laughed coldly in his heart. Seeing as they were about to arrive at the Danwu Academy, Zhou Ying circled around and went ahead of them, and then laid in ambush among the rocky terrain. He had long predetermined that this was the best location for him to strike. Here, the rocks formed an uneven terrain which was advantageous for concealing himself. He was prepared to kill Yayuan in a single blow. Right when Yayuan and his entourage were about to enter his certain kill range, the 3 of them stopped, leaving Zhou Ying stunned. Come on out. I believe Mr. is tired after following us all the way. Am I right? Yuan's words slowly drifted into Zhou Ying's ears. No one answered. This brat, is he making a blind guess? Trying to trick me to go out? He. That must be it. But he seemed to have underestimated this brat. To think he actually guessed that someone would send people here to kill him. Since Yuan managed to predict this, then why he did not bring along followers? Unless those two followers had been following them all along, and even he himself did not discover it? But how was that possible? The strength of those two followers was at best about the same as him. If they had been following these three people all the way, it would be impossible for him to not have spotted them. As a bronze rank assassin from Wuxia, Zhou Ying had considerable confidence in his abilities to conceal and tail people. If it had been a spirit condensation realm martial artist who followed them, then it would be reasonable for him to not have noticed anything. But those two followers were just Essence Chi realm martial artists. There was no way he could not discover them. No matter what, as long as they entered his attack range, he would just send that Yuan to see King Yama. Young master, what's wrong? Luiyar did not understand why Yuan would suddenly blurt out something like that and asked him in puzzlement. Rather, it was Tang Yu whose vigilance was quite high. The moment Yuan said those words, Tang Yu's entire body went on alert. Ha ha ha. It's just a small thief. No big deal, Yuan said without any care. Luiyar, upon seeing Yuan's casual attitude, took things even less seriously. But young master, where is that bad guy hiding? Oh, right behind that big boulder. My guess is that he is waiting for us to go over before ambushing us. Yuan gestured with his mouth and gave a smile. Zhou Ying's emotions, which had just relaxed, once again tightened with Yuan's words. Wasn't he behind a big boulder right now? However, this place was filled with piles of rocks and stones, even gigantic boulders were everywhere. How would that guy know which boulder he was hiding behind? Still trying to draw me out. I, Zhou Ying, am a professional killer. How could I possibly be goaded out using the super weak goading technique? Hey, the state of your heart is in disorder. That's not good. Yuan's voice drifted over once again. Zhou Ying reacted with a violent shudder. As an assassin, Zhou Ying always felt that the state of his heart had already been trained to a realm where he was unaffected by any disturbances. However, those two sentences by Yuan really disrupted the state of his heart. How was this possible? The other party is only a first-level Essence Chi realm rookie. Could it be that he really discovered me? He wasn't bluffing? Right at this moment, Yuan's demon-like voice drifted into his ears once again. How about this? I will throw a rock over. If I hit the correct one, you come out. If I hit wrongly, then I will carry on walking. How's that? The moment the voice stopped, Zhou Ying heard a whoosh, followed by the crisp sound of a small rock hitting a boulder. The boulder that he was leaning against. Zhou Ying realized that he was out of luck. Yuan truly knew that he was hiding here and was not trying to trick him. Revealing himself, Zhou Ying discovered three youths staring right at him. Among them, one of the youths had a weird smile on his face, who also happened to be the target he was sent to assassinate. Yuan. How did you discover me? Zhou Ying asked with a dark face. He was unable to understand how a first-level Essence Chi realm rookie could discover him. Right now, what he wanted to know the most was where his concealment went wrong, in order to make improvements after today's mission. As for whether or not these three people in front of him posed a threat, that was something he had never even considered. How was it possible for a Marsh's bronze rank assassin to be defeated by 3 rookies? Want to know how? Not going to tell you. Ye Yuan looked as if he was not willing to, and it was also impossible for him to answer Zhou Ying's question. He could not possibly tell Zhou Ying that this body contained a super amazing soul. Courting death. Right when Zhou Ying was about to strike, he suddenly stopped. Yeeth. To think he's actually at the 3rd level Essence Chi realm. The information doesn't match. Zhou Ying spent the past 2 days observing Ye Yuan from afar, so he was not aware of Ye Yuan's transformation. Now that he was facing Ye Yuan, he realized that his assassination target was already at the 3rd level Essence Chi realm. To Zhou Ying, there was not much difference between the 1st level Essence Chi realm and the 3rd level Essence Chi realm. An opponent like this was basically an instant kill for him. Every 3 levels in the Essence Chi realm was considered as 1 stage. Even though there was only a difference of 1 stage between the 4th level Essence Chi realm and the 3rd level Essence Chi realm, one should not underestimate it, as the difference in strength was huge. It was not difficult for a person at the 4th level Essence Chi realm to face off against 5 or 6 people at the 3rd level Essence Chi realm. As Zhou Ying was 2 stages above Ye Yuan, he did not feel that Ye Yuan posed any threat to him. What made Zhou Ying uncertain was whether the employer's information was wrong, or it was this youth in front of him that was too monstrous. Zhou Ying would rather choose to believe the former. After all, only 2 to 3 days had passed since the mission was issued. To train from the 1st level Essence Chi realm to the 3rd level Essence Chi realm in 2 to 3 days. Was this a joke? Brother Ye, this person is very troublesome to deal with. In a while, I will delay him. You and Louis are quickly rush off. The academy is only around 10 miles from here. The 2 of you quickly go and get help. Wielding his sword, Tan Yu positioned himself in front of Ye Yuan and Louis R. He could feel the killing intent emanating out of Zhou Ying, yet he could not see through Zhou Ying's abilities. He knew that this time around, they had met a tough character. Not only did Ye Yuan save Tang Zhonghui's life, but he also gave him a high-level medicinal pill. It could be said that Tan Yu owed Ye Yuan a great debt of gratitude. What Tan Yu was doing now was risking his life to repay the debt. Although Tan Yu was also a genius student from the Danwu Academy, when compared to Zhou Yan who had been through hundreds of battles, regardless whether it was strength or experience, he was too lacking. Staying behind naturally meant certain death. Among the 3 of them, Tan Yu's strength was the greatest. Hence, he did not hesitate at all to stand out. Seeing Tan Yu's appearance as if he was about to face a great enemy, Louis R also started to become nervous. Young master, run away first. Big brother Tang and I will cover your retreat. When Ye Yuan saw Louis R standing in front of him, he could not help but to laugh. Silly girl, what can you do by staying behind? Move away. No way. I'm not moving. Louis R said stubbornly. Looking at Tang Yu's and Louis R's actions, Ye Yuan found it hilarious, yet he was extremely touched in his heart. One can only see true feelings during a crisis. Louis R's actions were within Ye Yuan's expectations. However, he had only just met Tang Yu a few days ago. Even if he had saved Tang Yu's father and gave him an exploding yuan pill, someone who lacked resolution would have long fled for his life. One had to know, with Zhou Ying's strength, without any accident, the 3 of them would undoubtedly die. Ha ha ha. What a touching scene. Ye Yuan, it is fine if you don't say anything. But this young lady looks rather ravishing, in a while. Zhou Ying started laughing wildly. At this point, Zhou Ying was confident that this Yaoyuan definitely cultivated some technique, or he had some treasure on him, which was how Yaoyuan found his location. Such a technique or even a treasure like that was tremendously useful to him. Hence, he felt that no matter what, he had to force an answer out. Furthermore, Louis R was indeed tempting. Why would he let go of this chance? You guys, make way. Yaoyuan pushed Louis R and Tang Yu aside and stood in front. He still had a smile on his face, except now, that smile became ice cold. An inexplicable chill suddenly filled his heart. It made Zhou Ying shuddered. What's going on? Zhou Ying had killed at least 100, if not 80 people. He initially already had an ice-cold air around his body. Even if a spirit condensation realm martial artist were to stand in front of him right now, it would be impossible to make him shudder. Yet when he was facing this third-level Essence Chi realm brat, he actually felt a chill. Zhou Ying felt that everything that had happened today was too abnormal. This was supposedly a mission that was simple without a doubt. Why did things become so bizarre? You and I originally had no grudges. Initially, I only wanted to try things out with you, seeing as you are helping others avert disaster by taking their money. But since you dare to have ideas about Louis R, then don't blame me for taking your life. Yaoyuan's words revealed a bone-piercing chill. At this point, Yaoyuan swallowed a medicinal pill, something that he refined before setting off. Since he knew that this journey would be dangerous, Yaoyuan naturally would not be unprepared. This medicinal pill was named 5 Elements Spirit Link Pill. It was refined using medicinal herbs having 5 different attributes, being metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. An Essence Chi realm martial artist, after consuming it, could directly raise their strength by an entire stage for a period of time. Ha ha ha. This is hilarious. I want to see how a third-level Essence Chi realm brat like you can take my life. Zhou Ying's emotion was nowhere as calm as what he was showing on his face currently. In reality, he only used these words to encourage himself, to chase away the shadow that was shrouding his heart. At this moment, swing. Zhou Ying's sword left its scabbard. As a killer, Zhou Ying would stoop to anything to kill his opponent. Nobody said that you could not do a sneak attack during a frontal battle. A moment ago, Zhou Ying was still talking and laughing, and the next moment, his sword already reached in front of Yaoyuan. Brother Ye, young master, be careful. Tang Yu and Louis R shouted in unison. However, their cries were not faster than Zhou Ying's sword. By the time they reacted, Zhou Ying's sword had already stabbed through Yaoyuan's body. Young master. Brother Ye. Looking at this scene, Tang Yu and Louis R gave a heart-piercing cry. Zhou Ying felt that something was wrong. His sword obviously passed through Yaoyuan's body, but why his hand did not feel anything? The reason why Zhou Ying drew his sword so quickly was not only because he was cautious, but also because the uneasiness in his heart had become increasingly stronger. He watched as Yaoyuan swallowed that medicinal pill. Although he did not believe that Yaoyuan could threaten him just by eating some pills, as a person who had always been cautious, he did not hesitate at all before drawing his sword. Only a dead person could make one rest easy. However, he clearly had killed Yaoyuan. But why was this ominous feeling in his heart still there? At this moment, Yaoyuan, who was stabbed by Zhou Ying, gradually dissipated and then turned into nothingness. What Zhou Ying stabbed was actually just an afterimage. Hey, it's very dangerous for you to show your back to the enemy. Yaoyuan's voice made Zhou Ying wince stiff. How is this possible? I already stabbed him. Instant flash. It's actually instant flash. Tang Yu exclaimed. Young master. It's great that you are fine. Louis R shouted, pleasantly surprised. Ha ha ha. Of course I'm fine. How can your young master die so easily? Ye Yuan said with a smile. Brother yet actually managed to master such difficult footwork. Furthermore, your use of it was absolutely superb. What a genius! Tang Yu marveled at this show of ability. Just a trifling skill. To other people, instant flash was an incredibly profound footwork which was exceedingly hard to comprehend. However, to Ye Yuan, this level of footwork did not possess any challenge. Instant flash might look impressive, but it was actually only a footwork technique that allowed the user to move freely in a small radius. It was merely a Tier 1 martial technique, something that was not very profound. However, this footwork encompassed Heavenly Dao, making it easy to learn but challenging to master. An ordinary person who wanted to master it would find it incredibly difficult. Even within the Danwu Academy, instant flash was a highly challenging technique with hardly anyone able to master it. However, this level of Heavenly Dao was not worth mentioning to Ye Yuan, who once had possessed an incredibly high cultivation level. As a matter of fact, there were still some advantages in Ye Hang sending Ye Yuan to the Danwu Academy. That fellow at the very least will attend a few classes and pick up some stuff. Although these things were not worth mentioning to the current Ye Yuan, it was still a pretty decent option for fooling people. With Ye Yuan's current strength, instant flash was a practical martial technique, yet not overly conspicuous. Even though this martial technique faintly encompassed Heavenly Dao, in reality, it just barely touched a corner of it. It did not even count as crossing the threshold. Ye Yuan spent the past few days reorganizing his predecessor's memories. By relying on these vague impressions from his predecessor's classes, he managed to fumble out several basic martial techniques, with instant flash being one of it. In reality, while the instant flash that Ye Yuan executed seemed right, it was actually different. But by executing it with Ye Yuan's comprehension, it was only stronger and not weaker than those demonstrated by the teachers in the academy. No wonder you dare to not bring along followers. To think that your instant flash already reached such a level. Very impressive. Looks like the appraisal of you in the report was fairly misleading. Zhou Ying naturally knew that instant flash was not a unique martial technique. However, as instant flash was a footwork technique with only a small range of motion, it was not very useful for assassination. This was why he did not study it much. Mastery of a martial technique could be classified into several categories. From low to high respectively: entry stage, small success stage, large success stage, great circle stage, and the legendary breaking illusion stage. Even so, Zhou Ying knew that for instant flash to leave behind an afterimage, it had to reach at least the great circle stage. To be able to train such an amazing movement technique to the great circle stage, as long as he did not meet any martial artist specializing in movement technique and the opponent was at the Essence G realm and below, he basically had the ability to self-preserve. No wonder this brat dared to be so arrogant. He really had some capabilities. As an assassin, Zhou Ying naturally had a movement technique that he specialized in. However, his movement technique was only trained till the large success stage. There was still quite a bit of distance away from the great circle stage. It would be wrong to think that there was only a small difference of one realm between the large success stage and the great circle stage. For mastery of a martial technique, it was as far apart as heaven and earth. The great circle stage would mean training the martial technique to the pinnacle, without any further room for improvements. Except for those monsters who possessed incredible comprehension, it would be very difficult to train a martial technique to the Great Circle stage. As for the legendary breaking illusion stage, it would mean to break out of the Great Circle stage and create an alternate possibility, a sort of evolution from the original martial technique. The requirements needed to train a martial technique to the breaking illusion stage were so harsh that it made one's hair stand on its end. That was why it was considered a legendary stage. Generally speaking, training a martial technique to the Great Circle stage represented attaining the highest stage. Zhou Yin had always been somewhat confident of his movements, but he did not want to lose to a silk pants. "You flattered me. But there are no bonus marks. You still have to die," Ye Yuan said lightly. "Ha ha ha." As if he just heard a hilarious joke, Zhou Yin laughed wildly before saying, "Do not know the immensity of heaven and earth. I admit that my movements are inferior when compared to you. But I don't think those two people beside you also have movement techniques at the Great Circle stage, do they? I'd like to see how a weak silk pants at the third level Essence G realm like you going to receive my blow directly." Zhou Ying was a veteran in battles. After missing that one strike, he immediately looked for another way. Obviously, the two people beside Ye Yuan were his biggest weakness. Tang Yu was still fine, but Louis R was a lamb waiting to be slaughtered in Zhou Ying's eyes. "Your movement technique is fast. What's the use of you being fast if I force you to fight me head-on?" Yet at this moment, that wild smile froze on his face. What replaced it was bafflement. Because at this moment, Ye Yuan's aura started to increase explosively under everyone's perception. Peak 3rd level Essence G realm. 4th level Essence G realm. 5th level Essence G realm. 6th level Essence G realm. Ye Yuan's cultivation realm broke through its bottleneck from the 3rd level Essence G realm to the 4th level Essence G realm and continued rising rapidly, all the way until it passed the 6th level Essence G realm before stopping. Looking at this scene, Zhou Ying was dumbstruck and forgot to make his move for a moment. How is this possible? Zhou Ying sucked in a cold breath. He suddenly recalled the scene where Ye Yuan swallowed the medicinal pill and thought to himself, could this possibly be the effects of that medicinal pill? Even though he had heard that some medicinal pills were able to increase strength temporarily, this was his first time seeing a medicinal pill which could increase 3 small cultivation realms in a row. Zhou Ying could not help but think that if he had a medicinal pill like this, wouldn't completing missions be as simple as cutting up vegetables? Yet the reality was that a rookie who had a difference of 4 small cultivation realms from him, in a blink of an eye, created a gap by only 1 small cultivation realm than him. Although the 6th level Essence G realm and the 7th level Essence G realm were not on the same level, without a doubt, Ye Yuan indeed possessed the capital to fight with him now. Coupled with his instant flash being at the Great Circle stage, it might be possible for Ye Yuan to battle him. Zhou Ying suddenly felt that today was very bizarre. This brat in front of him had truly given him too many surprises. Initially, he was still grumbling about how this mission was too simple. Now, he could not help but somewhat regretted taking on this mission. However, regardless of what happens, the mission had to be completed. Otherwise, he would most likely lose the status he earned painstakingly in Marcia. Apparently, the reason why Zhou Ying was still thinking about completing the mission was that even after Ye Yuan swallowed the 5 elements spirit link pill, his cultivation realm ultimately had stopped at the 6th level Essence G realm. This was a cultivation realm that he could handle. Narrowing both eyes, the killing intent from Zhou Yin firmly locked onto Louis R. One word: kill. Zhou Ying immediately made his strongest move, which he had used to finish off countless opponents in the past. One word: kill, Simple and straightforward, yet it was domineering. A straightforward move that was not flashy at all. Lui'ar stood there completely unable to react as the sword already reached in front of her. A hideous smile flashed across Zhou Ying's face as if he could see the beauty. Lui'ar was dying, and the image of Yaoyuan's heart-wrenching grief. However, just as Zhou Ying's sword was about to pierce Lui'ar's throat, ding! His hand which was gripping his sword became numb, and the short sword which had never left his side was sent flying away. A terrifying strength was transmitted, and Zhou Ying was sent flying away as well. At the critical moment just now, Yaoyuan reached Lui'ar with instant flash, while his attack which was released after, struck first. He only stretched his finger out and tapped lightly, accurately hitting Zhou Ying's short sword and sent it flying. Absolute Yang Finger. Yaoyuan's Absolute Yang Finger already had some progress, reaching the entry stage after several days of cultivation. A martial technique of this rank obviously was not so easy to learn. To have reached the entry stage within a few days showed how outstanding Yaoyuan's talent was. Even though it was only the entry stage of Absolute Yang Finger, executing it with Yaoyuan's current 6th level Essence Chi realm was not something that Zhou Ying could withstand. Zhou Ying rolled on the ground. Pawok. He spat out a mouthful of blood. Looking at Zhou Ying, Yaoyuan said coldly, "I will only use one finger. Whether you can escape or not, it is up to your abilities." Right now, Zhou Ying's innards were in mayhem. But he knew that he had hit a hard plate. This brat was clearly pretending to be a pig in order to eat a tiger. He was too strong. Forcefully suppressing his injuries, Zhou Ying could not be bothered to care about anything else and started to wildly circulate all the essence energy in his body. He wanted to flee. Zhou Ying could feel Yaoyuan's surging killing intent. Clearly, his actions to kill Lui'ar just now had thoroughly infuriated Yaoyuan. Zhou Ying used all the strength in his body to escape. He could even feel that his current speed was faster than it had ever been before. It was so fast that his movement technique had touched the threshold of the Great Circle stage. This discovery made him ecstatic with joy. I can escape. I definitely can escape. Zhou Ying was screaming in his mind, and then his consciousness gradually blurred. Watching Zhou Ying utilized his movement technique to try to escape, Yaoyuan raised his finger leisurely and channeled essence energy with all his might using the Spirit Bristle 9 Yang Divine Art. A finger pointed forward, and a formless force shot out from Yaoyuan's finger. It tore through the air, penetrating Zhou Ying's heart in an instant. The force was so swift and fierce that Zhou Ying did not even notice his injury. His body continued charging forward for several meters more, collapsing only after he lost consciousness. Absolute Yang Finger was incomparably domineering. The force shot out concentrated instead of dispersing, resulting in an incredibly powerful pinpoint and deadly attack. Being executed using Yaoyuan's 6th level Essence Chi realm strength, its lethality obviously could not be underestimated. Of course, Absolute Yang Finger was not without any weaknesses. The biggest flaw was that it took too long to charge up. That was also the reason why Yaoyuan was slower by a beat when saving Lui'ar just now. In reality, if Zhou Ying recklessly tangled with Yaoyuan in close proximity, leaving Yaoyuan unable to charge up his full strength, he might have a slim chance of survival. But the various means used by Yaoyuan had long made Zhou Ying wanted to withdraw from the fight. Especially when Yaoyuan had sent him flying with only one finger. This shocked Zhou Ying's state of mind greatly that made him wanted to flee at all cost. Yet this attempt to escape gave Yaoyuan the chance to charge up. From the beginning, Yaoyuan looked as if he was careless. But in reality, He advanced gradually, entrenching himself firmly at every step. First, he used words to agitate Zhou Ying, disrupting his state of heart. Next, he displayed instant flash. Following which, he swallowed the 5-element spirit link pill, using his finger to overpower his opponent's sword, crushing Zhou Ying's confidence step by step. Finally, he launched this certain kill strike. It might have looked bland, but the entire process was filled with trepidation. Although Ye Yuan had a lot of hidden cards, his strength was still too weak. If it was not for the fact that he swallowed the 5-element spirit link pill and unleashed the absolute Yang finger with his full strength, he would not have been able to do anything to Zhou Ying. "Brother Tang, it is time to go," Ye Yuan said to Tang Yu lightly, not even bothering to look at Zhou Ying, who was lying on the ground. Tang Yu was shocked by Ye Yuan's attack and stood there dumbfounded the entire time. Only when Ye Yuan called him did he recover from his shock. "Ah! Oh! Go! Go!" Tang Yu mounted his horse awkwardly, and the three of them continued heading towards the Danwu Academy. Passing through this stretch of messy stone forest, their field of vision gradually widened. In front of their eyes was a vast plain, and they were able to indistinctly make out what looks like multi-storied pavilions. It was the Danwu Academy. The state of Qin established itself through martial arts, with a strong emphasis on the martial dea. However, this Danwu Academy was not established by the state of Qin. The domain south of the Endless Forest was hailed as the Tranquil Cloud 10 Nations. There were a total of 10 nations, and the state of Qin was only one of them. The reason why they were collectively known as the Tranquil Cloud 10 Nations was that these 10 nations were all under the jurisdiction of the Tranquil Cloud sect. The Danwu Academy was the outer sect establishment of the Tranquil Cloud sect. The Tranquil Cloud sect established its sect fundamentally with alchemy. Even so, the sect's internal hierarchy could be divided into the Pill faction and the Martial faction. This was why the outer sect establishment was named the Danwu Academy. 1. Just as the three of them entered the gates and were about to head to the residential area, they were stopped by a bunch of people. "Yo. Isn't this the 10,000 years last place? Well, aren't you a tough one? When they sent you out, you were clearly breathing in but not breathing out. To think you had actually returned alive and kicking," the person in front of them exclaimed, clearly with sarcasm. He was called Fei Qingping, a loyal lackey of Wang Yuan. Ye Yuan's predecessor was poisoned because of competing with this fellow and ended up losing his life. These several people in front of them all came from ordinary backgrounds. In the Danwu Academy, in order for those with ordinary backgrounds to obtain additional resources, many would choose to attach themselves to figures from the noble families. Only those who truly had outstanding talent would be heavily groomed by the academy. Good dogs don't get underfoot, get lost. Ye Yuan could not be bothered with him. Would he not be demeaning his own status to act seriously against a dog? "You. Ye Yuan, looks like your skin is itching again." For someone like Fei Qingping, it was a taboo for other people to scold him a dog. "With just you?" Ye Yuan asked expressionlessly. "You. After not seeing you for a few days, you became even more brain damaged. You first level Essence Chi realm. Yeeth. How's that possible? Why, you are already at the 3rd level Essence Chi realm." Fei Qingping had only just sized him up, and could not help but to draw a cold breath. Ye Yuan was originally at the bottom place. After a few days of not seeing him, he actually rose 2 levels consecutively, stepping into the 3rd level Essence Chi realm. Fei Qingping still thought that he had seen wrongly, and he checked closely again before realizing that Yuan was indeed already at the third-level Essence Chi realm. Wasn't this a little too heaven-defying? Are your dog eyes blind? Still can't tell after staring for so long. Yuan's words once again made the corner of Fei Qingping's mouth twitched. However, at this moment, Fei Qingping had already recovered from the initial shock and thought of a certain possibility. He naturally knew that Yuan's father, Ye Hang, was an alchemy grandmaster. If he spared no expenses, pulling his son up by 2 small cultivation realms was not something incomprehensible. As a matter of fact, there were plenty of methods to suddenly raise strength in this manner. But the price would be to sacrifice one's potential. It was said that there was an evil technique called Gi empowerment. The empowered individual could even directly break through the Essence Chi realm and reach the Spirit Condensation realm. But the price of this sort of empowerment was that it would no longer be possible for the person to increase his strength throughout his lifetime. Only a few days had passed, yet Yuan actually reached the third-level Essence Chi realm. Ye Hang should have known that his son's talent was inadequate. Therefore, he was afraid his son would be bullied. So he used a method similar to the Gi empowerment to raise him by 2 levels. Linking all of these together, Fei Qingping gave a cold laugh in his heart. A rookie like this, forget about being at the third-level Essence Chi realm. Even if he were at the 4th level, at the 5th level, Yuan would not be his match. Fei Qingping was at 4th level Essence Chi realm, higher than Yuan by 1 stage. Thus, he naturally had no need to fear him. He. It's great to have a good father. Poisoned to such extent, and yet you still didn't die. Even increasing strength becomes so simple. This is really an era for competing with fathers. Fei Qingping said mockingly. Yuan knew what Fei Qingping was thinking right away, but he obviously would not explain to him. Instead, he smiled and said, "That's right. I can compete using my father, but can you? I heard that your father is a watchdog for other people, using connections to let you enter the Danwu Academy. But who would have thought that after coming here, you would also become a watchdog? Indeed, a son will inherit his father's career. 1 gate and 2 watchdogs. Impressive, impressive." Yuan learned from his predecessor's memories that this Fei Qingping's father was the confidant of Wan Donghai, and he entered the academy through the Wan family's connections. Otherwise, with his talent, he could not possibly join the academy. It would be wrong to think that he and Tanyu were both the same, being at the 4th level Essence Chi realm. Fei Qingping was 2 years older than Tanyu. He was also a commoner but had the support of the Wan family's resources. Yet, this Fei Qingping was only at the 4th level Essence Chi realm. In the future, at best he would be at the early stage Spirit Condensation realm, or he might just even be stuck at the Essence Chi realm. Fei Qingping's lungs were about to explode in anger. Yuan repeatedly calling him dog made him lose all of his face. Fei Qingping looked at his companions, and even though nobody laughed out loud, he could tell from everyone's face that they were all just barely holding their laughter back. "What about me? You want to bite me?" Yuan stretched out an arm, and with a smile, he said, "Here, for you to bite." Ha ha ha. This time around, everyone could not bear it any longer, and they all started to laugh. Watching everyone ridiculed him, Fei Qingping's face turned into the color of a pig's liver. "Yuan, I want to issue a death match to you. Accept it if you have the guts." Fei Qingping pointed at Yuan angrily. The Danwu Academy did not forbid private battles among students. Instead, They tacitly accepted the friction between students. However, there was a point to take note, which was under no circumstances were they allowed to kill someone without permission from the academy. Otherwise, the person would face the wrath of the academy. However, if both parties agreed to set a life and death contract, not only academy will not stop it, an instructor would even be sent to host the death match. Yaoyuan revealed a surprised expression and asked, "You really want to carry out a death match? Scared? If you are scared, then kneel and count out 3 times loudly for me. Afterward, say 'I'm a dog' 3 times. Fei Qingping thought that Yaoyuan was scared and continued to goad him. Previously, he also used this sort of tactic to make Yaoyuan agree to the previous competition. Yaoyuan stretched his ear out and pretended he did not hear clearly, asking, "Say what 3 times? Say 'I'm a dog' 3 times. Right when the words left Fei Qingping's mouth, he realized he fell for it. Ha ha ha. The surrounding people laughed out loud again. Fei Qingping wished he could give himself 2 tight slaps. He shouted angrily, "Yaoyuan, you coward. Playing this sort of little games when you don't dare to fight. Good dog, so obedient. Your grandpa has never looked at the owner before hitting the dog. Since you delivered yourself to my door, I will hit for your owner to see," Yaoyuan said with a smile. "Have you heard about it? The yellow ranks first ranking from the bottom, the one hailed as the 10,000 years last place, Yaoyuan, had just signed a life and death contract with someone." "Of course I've heard. Don't you think that he's tired of living? However, it's been over 2 years since a life and death contract had appeared in the academy. This is considered news big enough for everyone to discuss for some time. Yeah, it's been 2 years and 5 months now. The previous life and death contract was signed by senior apprentice Brother Long. Back then, he was also a yellow rank student, yet he triumphed against his opponent who was 2 minor realms higher than him. I'm afraid that back then, nobody would have thought that he could charge to the first place in the martial roll of honor after 2 years. That is true. Senior apprentice Brother Long didn't even reveal his abilities completely back then. Ever since he finished off his opponent in that death match, he became unstoppable, charging all the way through into the heaven rank, and finally being at the first place in the martial roll of honor. Hey, do you think that this punk Yaoyuan can also defeat someone stronger than him and finish off his opponent? Rumors have it that this fellow only used a few days to advance 2 levels, and he actually went straight from the 1st level Essence G realm to the 3rd level Essence G realm. No way. How can he be compared to senior apprentice Brother Long? Back then, even though senior apprentice Brother Long was low-key, he wasn't weak to this extent, advancing 2 levels at once. Don't you know that fellow, Yaoyuan, entered the academy through an enormous backdoor? His father is one of the few alchemy grandmasters within our state of Qin. With his means, what's so strange about pulling the shots and helping his son improve by 2 levels? This sort of advancement is all empty, so what combat power can there be? That is true. I heard that this fellow had already entered the academy for half a year. If he could advance, he would have done so long ago and would not wait till now. Now that I look at it, it is most likely he used a secret technique to raise his strength. He. That fellow really doesn't know life from death. Supposedly, he competed in neutralizing poison with that Fei Qingping, but he ended up almost poisoned to death. His father is pretty impressive to have been able to save him. Yet he is courting death again right after returning to the academy. Do you think this fellow's brain is missing a screw? The Danwu Academy divided strength into 4 ranks of heaven, earth, black, and yellow. Ye Yuan and Fei Qingping both belonged in the yellow rank. Initially, the Academy's attention was concentrated mainly on the heaven rank. Very few people paid attention to topics pertaining to people of the yellow rank. However, after Ye Yuan and Fei Qingping signed a life and death contract, it attracted a great deal of attention and became major news in the entire academy. Even though the academy silently acknowledged the competitions and fights between students, it would not permit any death. There was once a student who relied on his family's illustrious background and killed somebody in the Danwu Academy. The end result was that he was murdered forcefully by the academy, bearing no room for discussion. In the end, that particular noble family did not even dare to make any noise. But a life and death contract was different. The instructors would not make a move no matter who live or die. In the entire Danwu Academy, everyone knew the one in the first place in the martial roll of honor was Long Tang. But not everybody knew the person in the last place was Ye Yuan. However, this life and death contract quickly spread Ye Yuan's reputation, almost reaching Long Tang's level. Of course, the majority was like how these two people were discussing, snorting in derision at Ye Yuan's brain-damaged actions. Ye Yuan's rapid improvement in strength was also naturally one of the focal points. But nobody thought that it was something he cultivated out by himself. Everyone felt that it was surely Ye Hang who used some secret technique to pull the shots in order to help it grow, letting him reach the 3rd level Essence G realm. Hence, everyone's appraisal of Ye Yuan was that he was brain-damaged, foolish, and rushing to meet King Yama. Just as these two people were discussing, someone suddenly said in a low voice, "Yev, look over there. Isn't that Ye Yuan? That's him. He doesn't look like someone who is brain-damaged." Sigh. Who would write brain-damaged on their faces? That's true. The death match is 3 days later. Where is he going instead of making preparations? He probably knows that it's hopeless to do anything right now. Being at the first place from the bottom, no matter how heaven-defying, he can't possibly jump ranks to defeat an opponent 1 level higher than him. I heard that because Fei Qingping is older by 2 years, he is already at the top 10 in yellow rank. Something is wrong. The direction he is heading to seems to be the scripture library. Is he trying to hug Buddha's feet in his hour of need? He. How can Buddha's leg be that easy to hug? Yeth. He was stopped by someone. That person seemed to be Wan Yuan, who just advanced to Earth rank. Oh yeah. You see that girl beside Wan Yuan? Wow. That's my goddess, Lu Shui. If she will speak even a word to me, I would die happy. Look at your starstruck expression. But yeah, Lu Shui is really beautiful. Ye Yuan was about to head to the scripture library. His top-grade predecessor was too prodigious. Everything he heard during classes was all bits and pieces without much useful information. Ye Yuan needed to find some martial techniques to deal with the situation. Ye Yuan had countless martial techniques on hand, but he truly did not have anything suitable for a person at the Essence G realm to cultivate. With his position in his previous life, how could Essence G realm martial techniques, regardless of how exceptional, enter his eyes? Who would have thought that he would encounter Wan Yuan on the way to the scripture library? Looks like Wan Yuan was intentionally waiting for him. As for Lu Shui by Wan Yuan's side, Ye Yuan naturally was not strangers with her. A few days ago, he competed with Fei Qingping precisely because of this woman. What a coincidence! Isn't this young master yet? Where are you rushing to so hurriedly? To reincarnate? Wang Yuan was full of smiles, but his eyes were as if looking at a dead person. Ye Yuan sneered unceasingly towards Wang Yuan's impatient mentality. Wang Yuan determined that Ye Yuan was definitely going to be dead this time, so he came in advance to taunt him. After the death match, Ye Yuan would surely be dead. Where would Wang Yuan go to find this sort of pleasure after this? Looking at Wang Yuan's appearance, Ye Yuan no longer hurried towards the scripture library. With a smile, he said, "That's right, to reincarnate. But it's to send you off for reincarnation." Hearing this, Wang Yuan laughed out loud and said, "Send me off to reincarnate? Ha ha ha. I'm standing right here. Send me to reincarnate if you can. You can't possibly think that just because you cultivated to the third-level essence chi realm through some unorthodox means, you can challenge me." Lubra Shui, who was by the side, also covered her mouth with her hand and chuckled, thinking that Ye Yuan was very amusing. This Lubra Shui's every action carried a trace of seductive charm, able to stir that desire lying in every man's heart. The male students in the Danwu Academy were all hot-blooded youths. If their willpower were not steadfast, how could they withstand this sort of natural seductive charm? His predecessor was only a very foolish and naive child. His strength was also weak to the extreme. How could he withstand Lubra Shui's charms? Back then, Lubra Shui was by his side, behaving neither friendly nor aloof for a period of time, and his predecessor completely fell for it. Afterward, Lubra Shui used a few small tricks, and his predecessor got hooked obediently, losing his life just like that. Senior apprentice brother Wan, this junior apprentice brother yet is an interesting man. He's clearly a miserable wretch, yet he tries to learn from others like a toad lusting after a swan. His strength is clearly poor, yet he wants to slap his face until it's swollen to look impressive. He's about to duel with someone, yet he is even threatening you now. Don't you think it is funny? Lubra Shui was beautiful like a flower, yet her words were bitterly sarcastic. In order to hook Ye Yuan in the past, she naturally had to pretend to be weak and pitiful. Now that Ye Yuan was about to duel with Fei Qingping, he was already a dead man. So she no longer needed to humor Ye Yuan. She fully expressed out the contempt and condescension in her heart. Now that Lubra Shui and Wang Yuan showed up together, it was clear what they were trying to convey. Before this, not many people knew that the Academy's Earth-rank goddess had already walked so intimately with Wang Yuan. By bringing Lubra Shui here, Wang Yuan wanted to humiliate Ye Yuan by letting him see the woman he dreamed of was already walking together with his rival. He was looking forward to Ye Yuan's expressions of resentment, shame, as well as regret. But Ye Yuan's reaction disappointed him, as not one of these expressions appeared on Ye Yuan's face. From the start till the end, Ye Yuan never even looked at Lubra Shui, treating her like air. And it was precisely being ignored by Ye Yuan that angered Lubra Shui, making her words just now so venomous. Lubra Shui was rather confident in her appearance. In her opinion, Ye Yuan should be groveling right now, begging her in tears not to go. If it was his predecessor, he might really have lost all control and did just that. But sadly, the Ye Yuan now was no longer the Ye Yuan of the past. With Ye Yuan's status in his previous life, what kind of beauty he had not seen before. It was impossible to try to use such a cheap tactic to seduce him. Ye Yuan gave Lubra Shui an emotionless glance and said, "A swan? Aren't you overthinking things? At best, you are a defeat-here chicken. How can you be compared with a noble animal such as a swan? How can a true proud daughter of heaven spare any thoughts to seduce men? When have you seen senior apprentice Sister Feng flirt with other men? Goddesses all have their own pride and wouldn't be the way you are. Lu Shui was a prideful person. In the Danwu Academy, she was always in existence surrounded by a group of admirers. When had anyone ever compared her to a defeated chicken? Lu Shui was so angry that her willowy eyebrows were almost vertical. Yet, she could not refute it, because the senior apprentice Sister Feng mentioned by Yayuan was indeed in existence far beyond her reach. Senior apprentice Sister Feng was called Feng's Hero, a true proud daughter of heaven within the Danwu Academy. Not only was she a beauty who could cause the downfall of countries, but she was also among the top 3 in both alchemy roll of honor and martial roll of honor with strength not at all inferior to Long Tang. She was a person that a woman like Lu Shui could not compare to. Feng's hero never bothered with pursuers, something different from Lu Shui. She was a famous ice beauty in the Danwu Academy. In comparison, Lu Shui was much more popular because she did not reject her pursuers. So she appeared very warm. Also, she extremely relished the feeling of being sought after by everyone. Humph. How stubborn. I will let Fei Qingping take good care of you during the death match. In Lu Shui's opinion, it was not that Yayuan was not willing to look at her, but it was because he was forcefully controlling himself after finding out the truth. Ha ha ha. Then there is no need for you to worry. Did the two of you come to find me just to say this? Since you are done, I won't entertain you anymore. After saying these words, Yayuan directly walked past them. Who permitted you to leave? Wang Yuan's face fell, and he made a move to grab Yayuan. But who would have thought he only grabbed the air, not even touching the corner of Yayuan's sleeve? Looking at Yayuan again, he was already several meters away. He even waved to the two of them with his back facing them and strutted away, angering Wang Yuan until his face turned green. Hiss. Was that instant flash? Wang Yuan frowned and asked. That's right. It was indeed instant flash. Lu Shui lightly furrowed her brows. Clearly, she was also stunned by Yayuan's move. Looks like there is really something odd about this punk. Father clearly arranged for an assassin, yet Yayuan simply swaggered into the academy. I don't know whether that assassin was too stupid, or was that punk really pretending to be a pig in order to eat a tiger? In my opinion, it is likely the former. He is only at the 3rd level Essence Chi realm. No matter how powerful his instant flash is, most likely he will not be able to escape from that assassin, right? Lu Shui interacted quite a bit with Yayuan before, so she had some understanding of him. In her eyes, Yayuan was just a useless person. Junior apprentice Sister Liu's words make sense. But I wonder since when did he learn instant flash? With this move, wouldn't he be in an undefeatable position in his death match with Qingping? Wang Yuan had always been competing with Yayuan since they were young. So he understood Yayuan the best. After thinking about it, Lu Shui's words still made more sense. Senior apprentice brother Wan is panicking because of concern. From the way I see it, Yayuan only learned instant flash by a fluke. The only move he can rely on is most likely just this. Otherwise, why would he be rushing to the scripture library at this time? Just now, senior apprentice brother Wan was only careless and didn't use your full strength. That's why he could get away. Even though instant flash is impressive, it is ultimately only a middle-grade Tier 1 martial technique and isn't invincible. Lu Shui had already recovered from her astonishment and returned to being a soul-mesmerizing goddess. Wang Yuan had long lusted after Lu Shui. Seeing Liberal Shui chased after him like this made him drunk with pleasure. Just now, he indeed had not used his full strength. It was about 70% power, yet Ye Yuan still managed to dodge it. However, strength was still the key to victory. Movement techniques were ultimately auxiliary. What Liberal Shui said was right. Instant flash is not all-powerful. Naturally, some techniques could counter it. Except that this move from Ye Yuan raised Wang Yuan's alert. He would have to go back and properly warn Fei Qingping to not underestimate his opponent. Looks like junior apprentice Sister Lilu's heart is as clear as a mirror. This time around, no matter what, we can't let this brat live on anymore. Looks like we have to go back and prepare a few hidden cards for Fei Qingping. After Ye Yuan shook those two off, he went directly to the scripture library. As far as he was concerned, Ye Yuan did not mind revealing instant flash. That was not what he was relying on anyway. Furthermore, what he just displayed was only at the great success stage. Ye Yuan's greatest reliance was naturally on the absolute Yang finger. But this technique could not be displayed in front of outsiders, or else he would get into a lot of trouble. Hence, he came to the scripture library in order to choose a martial technique. The martial techniques in the scripture library were not too profound. The tranquil cloud sect naturally would not release profound martial techniques out into the secular world. But to Ye Yuan, these martial techniques were sufficient. Senior apprentice brother, I would like to enter the scripture library to choose 2 martial techniques, Ye Yuan requested and handed over his identity token to the senior apprentice brother on duty. The senior apprentice brother who was guarding the scripture library was Zhao Chunyang of the Earth rank. When he saw the token with the symbol indicating yellow rank status, disdain could be seen from his eyes. The identity token was created by the Danwu Academy, which represented one's status as a student. As long as one inserted a bit of essence energy, one would be able to check the identity of the person the token belongs to. Ye Yuan. Zhao Chunyang seemed to feel that he heard that name somewhere before. After pondering a while, he came to a sudden realization and asked, "You are the Academy's last place, Ye Yuan?" Ye Yuan smiled and replied, "If there isn't a second Ye Yuan, then that would be me." Ye Yuan was not bothered by the title of the last place, as that was all in the past. Hearing this, Zhao Chunyang became interested. Handing the token back to Ye Yuan, he held on to him and asked curiously, "You are a big favorite within the Academy now. The last place actually dares to sign a life and death contract with others. Just what were you thinking?" Ye Yuan also did not intend to keep a distance away from Zhao Chunyang, so he smiled and answered, "Others already rode onto my head. I can't possibly behave like a coward. Don't you think so?" "Ha ha ha. That's true. But your strength." Zhao Chunyang was an outspoken person and was not afraid that other people would feel awkward. "Ha ha ha. That's why I'm here to choose martial techniques. Sharpening your spear at the last moment, even if it's not sharp, it is at least shiny. These words are not wrong, but there are only 3 days left. Isn't that a little too short? That's something that can't be helped. I believe senior apprentice brother is also aware that I neglected cultivation in the past, which led to my poor foundation. Even if it is only 3 days, it is better than not doing anything. Isn't that right?" Zhao Chunyang sized up Ye Yuan once again and suddenly smiled, and then he said, "Interesting. You seem to be quite different from the rumors. Go in then. You have 2 hours. Many thanks, senior apprentice brother." Zhao Chunyang patted Ye Yuan's shoulders and said with a smile, Choose well. I will cheer for you when the time comes. The Danwu Academy's scripture library was divided into 3 sections. The second section was only open for those who were in the spirit condensation realm. The current Yaoyuan naturally had no right to enter. The first section collected Tier 1 martial techniques. It was just perfect for the current Yaoyuan to use. The entire section was packed with bookshelves. There were cultivation laws, martial techniques, as well as books related to Tier 1 medicinal pills. They were sorted out into categories and encompassed everything. These books were all stone rubbings. The originals were naturally kept at Tranquil Cloud Sect headquarters. Concerning cultivation laws, Yaoyuan was already cultivating the Spirit Bristle 9 Yang Divine Art. Naturally, there wasn't any need to cultivate others. And these books on medicinal pills did not even count as introductory to Yaoyuan. So they were automatically filtered out by him. Only Tier 1 martial techniques were useful to the current Yaoyuan. Yaoyuan went to the area of bookshelves where martial techniques were kept and started to search for a martial technique suitable for him. Casually picking up a book, he saw Blazing Palm was written on it. It was a middle-grade Tier 1 martial technique with fire attribute. Flipping through the contents, Yaoyuan shook his head. This sort of martial technique was too crude. There was no depth at all, and the power was too weak as well. Even though the book bragged until flowers were cascading from the sky, with Yaoyuan's insights, why would he eye the sort of martial technique? Placing the Blazing Palm book back onto the shelf, Yaoyuan casually looked through several martial techniques. They were mainly martial techniques on the same level as Blazing Palm, flashy without substance. As time slowly passed, Yaoyuan already looked through several dozen books, yet not even a single one entered his eyes. Yaoyuan could not help but sigh, thinking that this Tranquil Cloud sect was so stingy, using these common goods to put up a front. But after thinking about it, he felt relieved. Cultivation laws and martial techniques were the foundation of a sect. How could truly important cultivation laws be casually placed out in the secular world? Yaoyuan knew that it was impossible to find a martial technique he wanted on this rack of shelves, so he walked deeper in. The martial techniques on this rack of shelves were clearly much lesser, but the quality increased by a grade. They basically reached high-grade Tier 1. Flipping through several books, Yaoyuan still did not encounter anything he was satisfied with. It was not that he had nothing better to do, but instead, he wanted to see if there were any beneficial insights within these martial techniques. To Yaoyuan, a middle-grade Tier 1 and a superior-grade Tier 1 did not have too much of a difference. A lower-grade martial technique might not be bad, while a higher-grade martial technique might not be good. Just take Instant Flash for instance. It was only a middle-grade Tier 1 martial technique, but this martial technique had some distinctive aspect. So Yaoyuan tinkered with it. Yaoyuan had just seen this Instant Flash martial technique. Briefly skimming through it, he knew that the insight of its creator was still too low. What he had altered was already much stronger than what was written in the book. Obviously, there wasn't any more meaning to researching it. Walking further in, there were no longer books on the shelves but a scattered bunch of jade pieces. Yaoyuan knew that this was where the essence of the first layer laid. Highly profound martial techniques could not be recorded down on paper. Only jade pieces could record or replicate it. Yaoyuan used his essence energy to inspect several jade pieces. These martial techniques were all high-grade Tier 1 martial techniques. These were actually already very rare. Any single piece of these jade, when placed in the outside world, were objects worth cities. After all, Essence Qi realm martial artists made up the largest portion of the population in the state of Qin, and the vast majority of them cultivated either low-grade or middle-grade martial techniques. One high-grade martial technique, Jade Piece, to them was something they could only dream of. It was enough for their strength to immediately increase by one stage. However, Ye Yuan did not have much interest in these high-grade martial techniques. He only looked a while before putting them back. Ye Yuan had already walked to the deepest part of the first layer. If he still could not find a martial technique he was satisfied with, he could only settle with these high-grade martial techniques. On the last shelf were only 3 jade pieces. Clearly, these 3 jade pieces were not the same as the others. Ye Yuan picked up the first jade piece, injected essence energy, and the information within the jade piece reflected in Ye Yuan's mind. 1,000 feet leap, a movement technique. When mastered to the large success stage, it could shrink the distance 2 inches and traverse 1,000 feet in an instant. A bit interesting. Ye Yuan inspected the details of the 1,000 feet leap. This movement technique had its unique points. Compared to instant flash, the 1,000 feet leap's movement in a straight line was more outstanding. It was somewhat useful regardless of whether using it to sneak attack or flee. This movement technique already reached the superior grade Tier 1. Placing the 1,000 feet leap jade piece back on the shelf, Ye Yuan picked up a second jade piece. It was a rarely seen lightning attribute martial technique which was extremely difficult to learn. Grade-wise, it was similar to the 1,000 feet leap. Although it might be difficult, it did not draw much interest from Ye Yuan. He casually picked up the third jade piece and investigated it. Stacking waves layered palm. Incomplete martial technique. Estimated to be at least Tier 3 and above. It's just that it is incomplete, causing its current grade to fall to the high-grade Tier 1 category. Ye Yuan was attracted by the jade piece's introduction. But it was not because this martial technique's grade was high. Tier 3 martial techniques were not exactly high-tier martial techniques to Ye Yuan. What truly attracted him was that this martial technique was a martial technique that paid great attention to the way strength was utilized. When mastered, it could release multiple times, even several dozen times of one's power. The might of it was very substantial. The introduction on this jade piece should have been left behind by a powerful figure from either the Tranquil Cloud sect or the Danwu Academy. If one could execute this technique to its limits, jumping ranks during battle would simply be like eating rice and drinking water. Ye Yuan sighed in admiration. Naturally, Ye Yuan also knew that this kind of martial technique would become harder to improve on as it progressed further. The difficulty of it would increase multiple times. Simply put, it was easy to release twice the power. But the difficulty would increase for 4 times. After that, it becomes 8 times, 16 times, and even 32 times. The further one advanced, the more terrifying it became. Naturally, the difficulty would also become increasingly immense. Even so, this was a rather amazing martial technique. But sadly, it was way too incomplete. You chose this martial technique. Looking at the martial technique Ye Yuan chose, Zhao Chunyang was very surprised. That's right. Ye Yuan long knew that Zhao Chunyang would be shocked. But this martial technique might be powerful, but it's incomplete. Zhao Chunyang tried persuading Ye Yuan. I know, but this martial technique looks very impressive. I will put up with it first. We will talk about it again in the future. Ye Yuan smiled and then replied him. Not only it is incomplete, but also exceedingly difficult to learn. You know senior apprentice brother Long Tang, don't you? He also once tried to learn this technique, but in the end, he gave up. This technique looks amazing, but it's an arduous yet fruitless labor. 3 days. Even if you are brilliant, at best you can learn the first layer wave. It wouldn't be much use against your opponent, right? Actually, Zhao Zhenliang's words were already very implicit. In his opinion, even if Ye Yuan spent a month's time, he might not be able to learn the first layer wave. What was the concept of the first layer wave? Just the increment of 2 times the power simply could not compensate for the difference in strength between Ye Yuan and Fei Qingping. Rather than that, it might be better to just learn a more practical martial technique. Ye Yuan had a rather good impression towards the Zhao Chunyang. At least he did not see himself as a joke like the others. So he smiled and then said, "Many thanks for your concern, senior apprentice brother. But I have my own plans. As for the death match 3 days from now, I think I can handle it." This. All right then. Since you insist, I will not persuade you anymore. Try your best. Zhao Chunyang shook his head and could only sigh. At a hidden location in the Danwu Academy, 2 people were currently discussing in a low voice. "Qingping, what do you think about your death match with Ye Yuan?" "What's there to think about? Just kill him. This punk's life is really tough. The last time he was sent back, he was already not breathing. Who would have thought that after a few days, he would be alive and kicking? This time, I will definitely not give him any chance." Fei Qingping's words were filled with contempt as if full of disdain towards Ye Yuan. Ye Yuan and Wang Yuan grew up competing with one another, so the latter was also naturally very clear on Ye Yuan's nature as well as his strength. Therefore, he did not feel any burden to kill Ye Yuan during the death match. With regards to Wang Yuan's question, Fei Qingping felt that it was very unusual, so he could not help but asked, "Young Master Wang, listening to your words, you can't possibly be thinking that I will lose to him during this battle, right?" Wang Yuan frowned and said, "I would not go so far as to say lose to him. I just feel that this time around, after Ye Yuan returned, he is rather unusual. Like somewhat different from the past." Sigh. I was wondering what it was. Of course, he's different, but isn't it just rising by 2 minor realms? However, from the way I see it, he will probably stay like this for the rest of his life. Ha ha ha. Although Fei Qingping was older than Wang Yuan by 2 years, he always treated the latter as the boss. Seeing how Fei Qingping was looking down on Ye Yuan like that, Wang Yuan felt that it was very inappropriate, and wanted to rebuke him. Yet, he also felt that Fei Qingping's opinion was correct. That Joku was like rotten mud that could not even support a wall. Could he overturn the heaven? Although Fei Qingping was not some extraordinary talent, he was an experienced 4th-level Essence G realm martial artist, merely a step away from the 5th-level Essence G realm. The 4th-level Essence G realm and the 3rd-level Essence G realm were not even on the same level. Thus, Fei Qingping had a good reason to look down on Ye Yuan. This small step was not so easy to cross over. The Danwu Academy was an academy for elites. Practically anyone here, when placed in the outside world, could jump ranks during battle. The resources they enjoyed, martial skills and techniques they learned, as well as guidance from accomplished teachers, all of these were not what those from the outside world could compare with. However, within the Danwu Academy, jumping ranks during a battle was a challenging thing to do, unless one really had extraordinary talent. If Long Tang or Feng's hero was only at the 3rd-level Essence G realm, Wang Yuan had no doubt that they could jump ranks to defeat Fei Qingping. But if it were Ye Yuan, even if he were to beat Wang Yuan to death, he would not believe it. Because he understood Ye Yuan too well. After a moment of silence, Wang Yuan still shook his head and said, "Qingping, the death match this time, you can only win. Defeat will not be tolerated. Even if Ye Yuan is only a rat, you have to go all out to defeat him. Bear in mind that you must not take him lightly. Understood?" Looking at Fei Qingping's careless attitude regarding his words, Wang Yuan finally became angry. "If you still have this attitude, I will eliminate you first. You are not only representing yourself in this match. You will also be representing the Wan family, the Drunken Star Manor. If you are defeated by Ye Yuan, where do you want my father and me to put our faces?" Wang Yuan's roar surprised Fei Qingping for a moment, his brain unable to react in time. But one thing was clear, and that was Wang Yuan really got angry. For Wang Yuan to be so concerned with Ye Yuan, that was something that had never happened before. I understand. I will go all out to finish him." Feeling Wang Yuan's wrath, Fei Qingping did not dare to be arrogant and meekly promised this. With a sigh, Wang Yuan said, "Qingping, I know that you feel Ye Yuan isn't even worth looking at. Actually, isn't that the same for me? But this time around, after he returned to the academy, I keep feeling that there's something off. Off? Off in what way?" Fei Qingping could not help but became curious after Wang Yuan said that. He knew that even though Wang Yuan was younger than him by 2 years, he was very prudent in doing things, just like his father. Regardless of whether it was talent or intelligence, Fei Qingping was much worse than Wang Yuan. That was why he was sincerely convinced to be his follower. Today, I went to find him to destroy his spirit and give him some trouble. I used 70% of my power, but I failed to catch him. Who knows when that punk managed to learn instant flash and even trained it to the great success stage. What? Instant flash? Great success stage? How is that possible? Fei Qingping was startled. He apparently knew what instant flash at the great success stage meant. It meant that Ye Yuan was already standing at an undefeatable position. If it was like this, Wang Yuan's warning was not an unnecessary action. As if he was confirming his exchange with Ye Yuan today, Wang Yuan mused for a moment before nodding his head, saying, "That's right. It's instant flash at the great success stage. Isn't that too shameless? How could he possibly manage to learn such profound footwork? Could it be a fluke?" Fei Qingping suddenly started to ramble incoherently. Wang Yuan said in a deep voice, "A fluke? Why don't you try executing instant flash at the great success stage by luck for me to see?" Actually, he stirred up a lot of trouble during his trip back to the capital. He even went to the Drunken Star Manor to make a scene, and father was unable to do anything to him. This time around on the way back here, father arranged for a martial assassin. Yet the result was that Ye Yuan actually arrived at the academy safely. That's why I feel that there is something odd about Ye Yuan after he came back. Then what should I do? At this point, Fei Qingping was thoroughly panicking. Patting his shoulders, Wang Yuan slowly said, "Relax. Even if he is a little unusual, the difference in strength between the two of you can't be made up. However, you can't let down your guard during these 3 days. You have to make full use of all the time you have." Hearing Wang Yuan said all these, Fei Qingping really did not dare to lower his guard this time. This battle was a death match where life and death must be determined. Fei Qingping was not willing to treat his life jokingly. Young Master Wan, just tell me what I have to do. I will absolutely listen to you. Seeing how he really took things seriously, Wan Yuan took out a bottle of medicinal pills and placed it in front of Fei Qingping. He said, "This is the essence-gathering pills that my father refined. Its effectiveness is 50% greater than Essence G pills. These 3 days, you will use these pills to raise your strength. You must definitely break through to the 5th level Essence G realm." Fei Qingping's eyes lit up. If he could break through to 5th level Essence G realm, then his chances of victory would increase significantly. Just as Wan Yuan said, the difference in strength was not something that can easily be breached. A 5th level Essence G realm martial artist versus a 3rd level Essence G realm martial artist, he really had no reason to lose. Immediately, Fei Qingping gave a deep bow and said gratefully, "Many thanks for young Master Wan's support." Nodding his head, Wan Yuan acknowledged it calmly and continued saying, "Another thing. These 3 days, you also have to put all your effort into training the lesser capturing hand. Use it to counter instant flash, and you will be in an invincible position." In a training room at the Danwu Academy, Ye Yuan stood quietly with his eyes tightly shut as if asleep. Ever since he looked at the jade piece, Ye Yuan was already standing here for close to 2 hours. Suddenly, Ye Yuan's eyes snapped open. Taking a step back, he then executed a palm movement. Stacking waves layered palm, first layer wave. A burst of wind carried forward, and with a boom, a fleshy palm smashed onto the wall. A dent was made on the wall, but one could see it rapidly recovering with their naked eyes. Looking at the wall, Ye Yuan shook his head. This stacking waves layered palm is indeed hard to train. No wonder senior apprentice brother Zhao advised me to give up. I already used 2 hours to adjust the essence energy in my body. Yet this palm still doesn't have the effects of the first layer wave. Ye Yuan sighed. If Zhao Chunyang saw this, his jaws would definitely drop, followed by scolding Ye Yuan being an ungrateful wretch. One has to know, back then when Long Ten was training his martial technique, the first layer wave was only mastered after a month. Even though Ye Yuan did not master it yet, he was not far from mastering the first layer wave already. Furthermore, he merely used 2 hours. Once more, Ye Yuan was not discouraged. Following the original method stated, he started to circulate the essence energy within his body once again. Stacking waves layered palm was actually a martial technique that creates a resonance between essence energy within the human body and heaven and earth essence energy, amplifying it in order to damage the enemies. Just like how tossing a rock into water will cause ripples to spread outwards. Describing it seemed easy, but to actually accomplish it was as hard as reaching the heaven. Heaven and earth essence energy was a vague and ethereal existence. In order to create a resonance, one needed to have an incredibly profound understanding towards heaven and earth essence energy. To martial artists, cultivating essence energy was instinctive. One would just need to gather essence energy according to their corresponding martial skill. It was merely a matter of knowing how to do something, but not understanding why. Although every martial artist cultivated essence energy, most likely no one would be able to say what exactly was essence energy. As cultivation realm increased, martial artists would gain a deeper understanding towards essence energy. When completely ignorant about essence energy, one could only go through non-stop training to be able to slowly grasp that sort of resonance in order to master stacking waves layered palm. That was the reason why this palm technique was so difficult to learn. Ye Yuan possessed an extremely high cultivation realm in his past life. Furthermore, he also had extremely great attainments in alchemy deo. That was why it was much easier for him to learn this technique. Slowly raising his right palm, a faint earthly yellow glow started to condense on Yaoyuan's palm, forming a tiny vortex. Releasing a palm strike, that faint yellow light spread out like water ripples. Peng. The wall sunk in heavily and the dent even deeper than previously. Stacking waves layered palm. Yaoyuan managed to execute it on his second palm strike. Well, that's the feeling all right. But it still isn't that stable. Also, the execution time is too long. Looks like I still need to practice more, Yaoyuan muttered to himself. In a blink of an eye, 3 days had passed. On this morning, the combat arena was surrounded by a lot of people that not even water could seep through. After 3 days of seething, virtually everyone in the Danwu Academy knew about Yaoyuan and Fei Qingping's death match. In this world, there was no lack of people who liked to watch a good show. It was the same everywhere. Even though the ones fighting in the death match were just 2 small characters, it was still a death match. It meant that one party would definitely die. Who would miss out on such a good show? After all, there had not been a death match in the Danwu Academy for over 2 years. The death match had not even started yet, but everyone was already discussing in groups of 3s and 5s. Who do you guys think will win? Another person looked at him as if he was an idiot. Are you retarded? A 3rd level Essence G realm versus a 4th level Essence G realm? What's there to guess? Do you think that Yaoyuan is senior brother apprentice Long? Hee. Who knows? Perhaps that Yaoyuan has something surprising up his sleeves. Don't you know that he spent the past few days cultivating in a closed-door seclusion? Maybe when he appears, he would be at 4th level Essence G realm already? That person did not mind and laughed instead. His words were once again met with disdain. What's the use of hugging Buddha's feet at the last moment? Yaoyuan isn't the only one who went into a closed-door seclusion. That Fei Qingping also spent 3 days in a closed-door seclusion. I heard that Fei Qingping has been stuck at the 4th level Essence G realm for a long time. This time around, who knows if he might directly break through to the 5th level Essence G realm. That Yaoyuan is definitely dead. That's not necessarily true. I heard that Yaoyuan managed to learn Instant Flash, and it's even at the great success stage. This practically means that he is in an undefeatable position. Instant Flash. What's the use? Shitty combat power, low cultivation realm. Don't tell me he has to keep using Instant Flash. When his essence energy is finally depleted, wouldn't he still be defeated? Furthermore, Instant Flash might be amazing, but it isn't invincible, okay? I'm guessing that Yaoyuan is making up for his weaknesses during these 3 days of closed-door seclusion. It's hard to increase cultivation realm in a short period of time, so it's possible he's training some amazing martial techniques. I heard that a few days before, Yaoyuan went to the scripture library. Oh right, wasn't it Senior Apprentice Brother Zhao on duty then? Senior Apprentice Brother Zhao. What martial technique did Yaoyuan choose? Zhao Chunyang, who was currently listening to the strength analysis, did not expect the topic to suddenly switch to him. Hearing their question, he directly replied, "It's the stacking waves layered palm." I already said so. This Yaoyuan is outrageous. Plenty to choose from, yet he just had to choose this martial technique. Even Senior Apprentice Brother Long spent a month before he managed to master the first layer wave. Yaoyuan is too confident. Does he think he's stronger than Senior Apprentice Brother Long? Even if he is stronger than Senior Apprentice Brother Long, how long does he need to master the first layer wave? Half a month. 10 days. 7 days. Ha ha ha. The more that person spoke, the funnier he found it, and he could not help but laugh out loud. So it's that martial technique. I was still hoping that he could create a miracle by becoming a dark horse and finishing off that Fei Xingping. Looks like I was expecting too much. I reckon this death match doesn't have any more value to watch. That Yayuan is dead. I've long said that there isn't anything worth watching, but you didn't believe me. This Yayuan is just a silk pants whose father forcefully raised him by 2 cultivation realms. What combat power can he have? If it wasn't a death match, I wouldn't even be bothered to come and watch. Make a guess, how many moves will Fei Xingping take to finish off Yayuan? That. 20 moves, this person said uncertainly. 20 moves? You are expecting too much. At best 5 moves. Senior apprentice brother Zhao, what do you think? Another person asked Zhao Chunyang. That I'm not too sure. But I feel that it might not be impossible for Yayuan, Zhao Chunyang replied. Zhao Chunyang was not confident enough, but ever since encountering Yayuan that day, he felt that something would happen. But all of the signs clearly showed that it was impossible for Yayuan to win. Zhao Chunyang did not know why he had this feeling either. That person thought he heard wrong and was just about to open his mouth when another voice sounded off from behind him. 10 moves. Junior apprentice brother Ye wins. That voice did not make any attempts to hide, and many of the surrounding people heard it. Muttering. That voice was like a bomb that just went off, and everyone glanced over in that direction. Before this, everyone's opinions were one-sided, thinking that it was impossible for Yayuan to win. The 2 who were predicting how many moves Yayuan would last before he loses were not in the minority. Therefore, this voice could be said to be very different, resulting in all the other discussions ceased. Tan Yu, are you all right? Someone recognized who it was. It was precisely Tan Yu who returned to the Danwu Academy with Yayuan. There was even a young lady beside him, who was Louis R. That's right, Tan Yu. I've heard that you've been walking very closely with that moron recently. Is that why you also became retarded? Ha ha ha. The matter of Tan Yu and Yayuan returning together obviously could not be hidden from others. It was dug out over these few days. Tan Yu emotionlessly swept a look over everyone and gave a cold smile. He then said, 100 Essence G pills. Who dares to wager with me? Tan Yu's words once again made everyone silent, but their expressions were even more like they were looking at a fool. Tan Yu, did you really become stupid? Enough crap. If I lose, I will pay each and every one of you 100 Essence G pills. But if I win, each one of you will pay me 100 Essence G pills. If you don't dare, then shut up. At this moment, Tan Yu's domineering air seeped out. As expected, the moment he said that, most of the people immediately shut up. 100 Essence G pills were not a small amount. It was practically the amount of their usage for 3 months. Even though there were plenty of people who did not mind, it was still a large enough number to make the majority felt pain for several months. Let's wager then. Who's scared of you? But there are at least several hundred people here. If you lose, can you afford to pay? At this moment, those who were on good terms with Wang Yuan could not look on anymore, and one of them immediately jumped out and confronted Tan Yu. Tan Yu gave a cold laugh and took out a bottle of medicinal pills. Transcendent Grade Essence G pill. Cave. All of them are Transcendent Grade Essence G pills. That person stared till his eyes nearly popped out. The value of one transcendent grade Essence G pill could sufficiently match with 10 ordinary high-grade Essence G pills. These medicinal pills were all refined by Ye Yuan before he went into a closed-door seclusion. He long foresaw this scene, and so he decided to use this chance to make a windfall. "I will wager with you." The audience turned towards the voice, only to see Wang Yuan walking in with Lu Ruoshui and Fei Qingping. "I will wager with you." The moment Wang Yuan appeared, he brought with him an imposing air, affecting Tan Yu to the point he was out of breath. "Fine." Tan Yu did not answer ambiguously and directly accepted it. "Since we are wagering, let's play a little bigger." Wang Yuan was smiling coldly at Tan Yu, making people felt that his scheme had succeeded. "How do you want to play?" Tan Yu gritted his teeth and asked. 1,000 pills. Transcendent grade Essence G pills. How about it? Do you dare to play? Seeing Tan Yu's facial expression, he felt increasingly satisfied. Tan Yu seemed to have been scared by this figure as he revealed a difficult expression. Although Ye Yuan is disappointing, his father Ye Hang is an alchemy grandmaster that everyone looks up to. It can't be that you can't even take out this bit of Essence G pills, right? Seeing Tan Yu's expression, he became even more pleased with himself. "Fine. 1,000 then. Do you think I'm scared of you?" Tan Yu gritted his teeth and said, "Ha ha ha. You got guts." Now, everybody heard that. If the time comes, and one goes back on his word, everyone will go to the Fragrant Medicine Pavilion together to find Ye Hang, Wang Yuan shouted loudly. Many people saw Tan Yu's expression and felt more confident despite having no basis. "I will bet too. 100 high-grade Essence G pills." "I will bet too." "Me too." After hearing Ye Hang's name, everyone was no longer worried that Ye Yuan would repudiate his debt. So they all verbally agreed to the wager one after another. After finding someone to be a witness, those participating in the wager signed on the paper one after another, and this matter was considered fixed. Looking at all these people's signatures, Tan Yu was overjoyed. Looks like junior apprentice brother yet is still the best. These people just lost their money. In the future, we won't lack Essence G pills anymore. There will be as many as we want. Tan Yu thought to himself. Others might not know, but Tan Yu had seen with his own eyes how Ye Yuan used his 3rd-level Essence G realm cultivation to kill a 7th-level Essence G realm assassin. How could he possibly be defeated by a minor character like Fei Qingping? Not everyone had the guts to participate in the wager. The final count of all those who signed the paper was more than 200 people. There was an enormous quantity of Essence G pills at stake. If Ye Yuan really lost, this would be an absolutely devastating blow to the Fragrant Medicine Pavilion. But they probably would not have that opportunity. Especially Wang Yuan this time around, he was definitely going to suffer a hefty loss. After this business was settled, it was already getting late. Fei Qingping slowly walked into the combat arena. Yeeth. Fei Qingping is actually already at the 5th-level Essence G realm. It's true. Ye Yuan is definitely doomed now. Ha ha ha. That wager of 100 high-grade Essence G pills just now was really a great haul. Under the same circumstances, a difference of one realm would already decide everything. That was why everyone was not optimistic about Ye Yuan. If these students initially still had a trace of faith in Ye Yuan, after seeing Fei Qingping's 5th-level Essence G realm now, even that last trace of faith was gone. Listening to the public opinions, Fei Qingping felt very refreshed. The initial trace of worry in his heart was already wholly forgotten. All along, Fei Qingping had always been following behind Wang Yuan. Never had he thought that one day, he would also become everyone's focus. After today, I will probably receive quite a few love letters from girls, right? Fei Qingping thought to himself. These past 3 days, Fei Qingping did not dare to slack off even the slightest. First, he used one day to break through the bottleneck. The essence-gathering pill's effects were unexpectedly good, making him advance to the 5th level essence Qi realm smoothly. Next, he went into a closed-door seclusion to train the lesser capturing hand. Even though time was a little tight, under Wang Yuan's guidance, there was some success. Under this situation, Fei Qingping could not even find a trace of the possibility of losing. What time is it already? Why isn't Ye Yuan here yet? He probably didn't dare to come and ran away already. Ha ha ha. Losing face is better than losing his life. After all, he will die even if he comes. At least he can save his life by finding his father to shield him. It was already late, and everybody was already impatient from waiting. Under these sort of circumstances, everyone felt that Ye Yuan was too scared. That was why he did not dare to come. At a private viewing stand in the combat arena, 2 young men between the ages of 17 and 18 years old stood with their hands behind their backs. One with a domineering air soaring to the skies, while the other seemingly had a nonchalant attitude towards life. To think that the great martial roll of honors rank 1 would actually stoop to come watch the sort of small fight. That nonchalant-looking man could not help but reveal a surprised expression after seeing the newcomer. Rank 1 in the martial roll of honor, this person who was emanating a domineering air that reached the clouds was actually the legendary number 1 figure in the Danwu Academy, Long Tang. Long Tang did not have any intention to respond to the other party's mocking. He knew that the person in front of him who looked laid back was actually an extremely nasty opponent. Didn't you, Martial Roll of Honors rank 2, come as well? Long Tang rebuked leisurely. This laid-back looking man was actually rank 2 in the Martial Roll of Honor, Zhou Bagui. If there were other students around, they would undoubtedly be greatly astonished. Martial Roll of Honors rank 1 and rank 2, appearing together to pay attention to a battle between rookies. This was completely inconceivable. Ha ha ha. I can't hold on to this rank 2 for long. Junior apprentice Sister Fang is right on my heels. I'm afraid this rank 2 will have to change owners at the next battle of Martial Roll of Honor. Zhou Bagui had a helpless expression. Long Tang did not make any remarks on this. He knew that with Zhou Bagui's strength, 1 could not need him as they wished. Even he himself has to be cautious when facing him. It isn't just the 2 of us. Su Yishan, Su Qingfeng, those guys came too. Look at the grandstand opposite. After all, it's been 2 years since a death match has occurred. Even if it's only 2 rookies, it isn't strange to attract everyone over, right? Thinking back, weren't we also rookies back then? Long Tang said lightly. Hee hee. That's true. Who wasn't a rookie before? But that fellow Su Yishan and Wang Yuan have common interests. Is he here to watch a joke? After all, the Su family and the Fragrant Medicine Pavilion don't get along. With his personality, watching Ye Hangsun get killed will definitely make him derive pleasure from others' misfortunes. Zhou Bagui seemed to be very clear on the arrangement within the capital. None of my business, Long Tang said indifferently. Tisk. I knew you were like this. I know that you came here today because you wanted to see if the stacking waves layered palm that even you couldn't master can be mastered by a rookie, right? Zhou Bagui seemed to understand Long Tang very well, and he directly set out the purpose of Long Tang's visit. Long Tang did not deny it. Nodding his head, he said, "Stacking waves layered palm might be an incomplete martial technique, but it's publicly acknowledged within the academy to be the hardest to master, as well as the martial technique with the greatest might. These past few years, virtually no one dared to touch it. I want to see if this Yuan is here to be a joke, or does he really have the confidence to master stacking waves layered palm?" Zhou Bagui curled his lips and said, "I think that you are thinking too much. Even a sicko like you spent a month's time to master only the first layer. How can Yuan that last place possibly master it? Even if he mastered it, what's the use of the first layer wave? The difference between Fei Qingping and him is 2 whole cultivation realms." Perhaps Long Tang couldn't be bothered to debate with Zhou Bagui and replied nonchalantly, Hey, what kind of attitude is this? Is there a need to put on a cool appearance all day? I think you won't be able to see it anymore. Yuan, that punk probably ran away already. What time is it already? And yet he still hasn't appeared." Zhou Bagui kept on talking non-stop, but Long Tang could not be bothered to respond. "Make way! Make way!" Right at this moment, Yuan shouted at the top of his voice. He was stuck outside, unable to enter. "It's Yuan." He came. He actually dared to come. "Quickly make way for him. Don't delay me from collecting my essence G pills." Amidst a wave of laughter, everyone made way for Yuan. However, Yuan did not enter the combat arena directly, but came to Tang Yu instead and asked slyly, "Is it done?" Tang Yu smiled. "Don't worry, junior apprentice brother yet. Luckily, I didn't fail you." "Ha ha ha. Then that's good, that's good." Finishing his words, Yuan then raised both arms up and cupped his hands politely, and he said, "Many thanks to all senior apprentice brothers and sisters that gave these Essence G pills. I, your junior apprentice brother, thank you here, and kindly accept them." Everyone looked at each other speechlessly, not knowing why Yuan was showing off. Did he mess his brain up from training? Ignoring everyone's surprised looks, Yuan said to Tang Yu, "Senior apprentice brother Tang, take care not to lose the name list. After the match, I have to go and claim from each person." Ending the conversation, Yuan walked into the combat arena step by step. Fei Qingping had a cold smile on his face as he watched Yuan showing off. "You are about to die, and yet you still dare to ask for Essence G pills." Yuan smiled and said, "Fei Qingping, did you wager? Since I'm about to die, why don't you bet some more?" "Don't worry. I've already wagered everything. Now, I will send you to the Western Paradise." Fei Qingping fully released the power of his 5th level Essence G realm as he wanted to take the initiative right from the start. Yeah. Momentum's not bad. Yeeth. You are actually at the 5th level Essence G realm. Yuan's face revealed astonishment. Fei Qingping saw Yuan's face change color and could not help but be pleased with himself. Humph. Anyhow, we are apprentice brothers after all. How about this? I will allow you 3 moves. Make your move. Yuan revealed a delighted expression and asked with amazement, "Do you really mean it, senior apprentice brother Fei?" "Of course." "Then that's great." Yuan smiled. Looking all around, he said, "You all heard it?" He was the one who said he will allow me 3 moves.